2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place again, not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Monday edition, another week of the Zach Gelb Show right here on CBS Sports Radio, across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. 855-212-4CBS, number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Chris Hess and Big Mike, CBS, rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We'll have a few guests join us along the way today. The SEC Player of the Year, a sensational story, and that is Dalton Knecht, who was at JUCO College, had another stop in between JUCO and Tennessee. He's going to stop by at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time today, 1:20 p.m. Pacific. Tennessee did win the SEC in the regular season, and then they did lose their first SEC tournament game, but they do have big expectations as a 2 seed, and they'll kick things off Thursday evening up against St. Peter's. And then joining us to kind of assist you with your brackets at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, Bobby Regan does a great job covering college basketball all throughout the year for Barstool Sports. A whole lot rocking and rolling today. I can't wait for Thursday to start. Like, don't get me wrong. this is not me saying I'm above or I'm like high and mighty here to the play-in games, because those are really good. But I always think, even with the play-in games on Tuesday and Wednesday, that the NCAA tournament for your boy doesn't really start on Thursday. And I do enjoy whenever we have to wait around for the show to start, when you just get college basketball game after college basketball game with the crazy endings and the crazy finishes and all the ooh onions by Bill Raftery, which I absolutely love. So the tourney for me starts on Thursday and Friday with the first round. And then this weekend, right after the show on Friday, I'm bolting down to the Jersey Shore. Got to get my casino fix in and my sportsbook fix in. And I have a few buddies that do have a house down there. So I'm going to go down to the Jersey Shore this weekend and just consume all the college basketball, because this is March and it's a wonderful time of the year. So we have a whole lot cooking, obviously, with all the reaction, the aftermath of Selection Sunday. Some people happy, some people really upset and infuriated. We'll get to all that throughout the show. But I got to start off a little football today, because where we left you on Friday, we knew that the Pittsburgh Steelers had Russell Wilson. Not only did they have Russell Wilson, but as first heard on this show by a caller going back to January, that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to trade for Kenny Pickett. So we knew how that all did play on down, and we wouldn't have led the show with it today leading into Monday if something else didn't happen over the weekend. And what we found out happened over the weekend is that Justin Fields gets traded from Chicago to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who already have Russell Wilson, and the trade was for a conditional 6th-round pick that at best could turn into a 4th-round pick. So there's two different angles that we could approach this with, and two different takes. The first take is the Justin Fields trade return, and the Justin Fields trade conversation may be one of the more overblown and underwhelming stories that I've ever covered. And the other part about it is, Russ is the guy now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but how long is the leash with Justin Fields right behind him, and what does it say about their true feelings of Russell Wilson? But let's start with the Chicago Bears decision. The Chicago Bears, even though at times I think we've all vacillated on this because of the up and down, turbulent play of Justin Fields, the Bears made the right decision. The Bears have to take Caleb Williams, number one. It resets the clock. It resets the contract. And Justin Fields had this year and then the 5th-year option on his contract that you could pick up. I don't think there was going to be a time in Chicago within the next year or two where you would have seen it all come together for Justin Fields, and you would have felt comfortable giving Justin Fields one of these mega contract extensions. And also, the ceiling for Caleb Williams is just higher than the ceiling for Justin Fields. So even though I felt some days one way about it, other days a different way about it, the Chicago Bears ended up making the right decision in saying, we're going to take Caleb Williams number one overall, and we're going to trade Justin Fields. Now, with all that being said, there was a time, and it's not ancient history, this was talked about in January when the season ended, where the stock of Justin Fields was in a positive way, and it was in a positive light. And there was a legitimate conversation on what the Bears should do, that some people thought Justin Fields could get traded for a 1st-round pick. Now, I wasn't in the camp that Justin Fields was going to get traded for a pure and natural 1st-round pick, but there was some thought that maybe it could be, and probably in all likelihood, be a conditional 2nd-round pick that could turn into a 1st-round pick. But even with all the scenarios out there, in January and February, before March even started, you could have never sold to me on this show. Like, if you would have called me at 855-212-4CBS and say, Zach, Justin Fields is going to get traded for a conditional 6 that could turn into the best case scenario, a 4th-round pick, I would have asked you, what are you smoking and what are you drinking? And how much of it did you already have? Because that was inconceivable, even with Justin Fields not popping off yet in the NFL, for Justin Fields to only go for a 6 that could turn into a 4. I thought bare minimum, we were seeing a 2 or we were seeing a 3, something in that line. Now, there are reports out there that the Bears may have had better offers on the table and they wanted to do right by Justin Fields. I think a lot of that is a lot of hogwash and nonsense. Because if the offers were really better, and I'm not just saying slightly better, I mean that much better, it's a complete and utter disgrace, and it's a complete and utter disservice by Ryan Poles to the organization and to his fans. But I'm going to lean on the side that maybe some of the other returns that were being speculated and other deals that Ryan Poles may have been in on weren't that much better, or Ryan Poles is just trying to create a little positive PR here to maybe help out the franchise in future situations with other players in trades and free agency and all that jazz. But to the Chicago point of it, the idea was going to be you either work one or two ways. One, you keep Williams or you draft Williams, you trade Fields, and you get some significant draft capital back to already build off your draft capital. Or the other thing was, and this is what they did not end up happening, was that you would keep Fields and then you trade the number 1 pick and you get a boatload of picks back. I think the Bears have been accumulating and acquiring assets for the last few years where I don't believe in back-to-back years you can trade the number 1 overall pick. Like, it worked out greatly with what they did with Carolina. I don't think you do that in back-to-back. Even people are saying Caleb Williams is a generational talent, and your franchise hasn't had a quarterback in my lifetime and a lot of other people's lifetime that are listening to this very fine radio program right now. So I like what the Bears did. I think the Bears ultimately got it right. But how much hot air was there from probably November when the Fields train really started to pick up steam until over the weekend when we find out Justin Fields only goes for a conditional 6 that could turn into a 4. Like, when I heard the reporting of what Fields did land with and get traded for to the Steelers, I was like, that's it? I go, was this like a fake news Twitter account? Was this a parody count? Because it was the ultimate like, wah, wah, wah. Because where all the speculation, all the hype was, it didn't meet what the ultimate returns were. So that's the Bears side of it. This is a new day. This is new life for Chicago. Not only do you have DJ Moore, not only do you have the 9th overall pick, in addition to taking Caleb Williams at 1, not only do you have Keenan Allen, not only do you have Cole Kmet, a good underrated tight end of this league, not only do you have DeAndre Swift, you are putting Caleb Williams, even with the lack of return for Justin Fields, in a good situation. What Caleb Williams is walking into runs circles around what Justin Fields was walking into. So I commend the Bears for finally making the decision. But even though I commend them, there's also that side of it of like, that's all you get for Justin Fields. And it's alarming, and it shows you what we think of Justin Fields and the way that we've talked about Justin Fields is nowhere close to what the NFL thinks of Justin Fields. Because don't tell me, oh, well, the Bears didn't really have any leverage. What leverage did the Jets have when they were trading Sam Darnold? All right? And they got 3 second-round picks or something like that for Sam Darnold. So there have been teams before that haven't had leverage with the player that they're moving on, but there are other teams, coaches and GMs that think they could fix that player. And for some reason, that didn't occur with Justin Fields. It's wild. It really is wild. It really is bizarre. And the landing spot, because you heard a few rumors about this on Thursday and Friday. Oh, maybe the Steelers will be in on Justin Fields. But once they signed Russell Wilson, I didn't think it was going to happen. And even after they traded Kenny Pickett, they need a backup. But I didn't think Justin Fields was going to be likely. And it ends up happening, and it's low risk, high reward. Because let's be realistic. The Steelers, and I know this for a fact, the Steelers, when Russell Wilson signed there, and it's all been played out, it's all been reported, these are things that I've said before on the show. When the Steelers brought in Russell Wilson, this was no competition brewing between Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett. Russell Wilson was getting the QB1 reps. Russell Wilson was going to be the day one starter. So you say goodbye to Kenny Pickett, And whether you believe it or not, that Kenny Pickett dragged his feet, he whined, he complained, he didn't want to be there and be the backup, and then he gets traded to Philadelphia. Whatever you want to believe is fine by me. I told you on Friday I thought Kenny Pickett came off looking weak. I think there's a better chance he gets on the field and wins back that starting job in Pittsburgh than it is that he ever wins a job in Philadelphia. Because the only way you get on the field in Philadelphia is Jalen Hurts gets hurt. That's the only way. In Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson could flop. Russell Wilson could fail. And I've been someone that in this last year, in the last 365 days, I've defended Russell Wilson. But still, the ceiling for Russell Wilson right now in this league is no longer a great quarterback. At his best, he can only be a good quarterback. But I like how the Steelers did approach this, and I'm surprised by it. And I've been someone that has talked about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields landing in Pittsburgh for months now. But the fact that they got both, it shows you two things. One, as I said, it's a new day for the Bears. It's also a new day for the Steelers. Because the Steelers have kind of been stuck in being a complacent team ever since their last playoff victory, which was in the 2016 season. Ever since then, they have just waited and wait. They waited for Big Ben to walk away. Then they waited to settle on Kenny Pickett in the first round, right? They waited and just waited and waited, and it didn't seem like they were going to really move on until they had to. But this offseason, they signed Russell Wilson to a $1.5 million contract. That's being proactive. And then they kicked Kenny Pickett to the curb because they didn't want to deal with his nonsense. And then they don't say, oh, we'll just give it over to Russ and we'll hand the entire team over to Russ. No, they went out there and got an intriguing backup option. And what I think it does here, with no long-term security to Russell Wilson, is it gives him a little bit of a leash in Pittsburgh. But when you have a passionate fan base, sometimes you could send a message and it could be sent through your fan base. And right now, Russell Wilson is the guy in Pittsburgh. But if he doesn't get off to a strong start, you know the fans with the terrible towels, waving those gold flags and wearing their gold and black uniforms, they will be demanding to see Justin Fields. Because there still is a thought of what Justin Fields can be in the NFL. And that thought will still sit, and that thought will still marinate, and there will always be a door that's open into maybe seeing Justin Fields get out onto the field if Russell Wilson doesn't hold up his end of the bargain. So I like the insurance move that the Steelers made. And don't get me wrong. This isn't Zach Gelb sitting here saying, oh, Steelers, lock it up. They're going to Super Bowl. Oh, Steelers, lock it up. They're winning the AFC North. I'm not even saying the Steelers win a damn playoff game this year. But they are better at the quarterback position in the quarterback room this year than where they were last year. And not only that, there are two options in that room this year that are better than the guy who was the lead dog last year in Kenny Pickett. And Russ, you get the first opportunity. Russ, you get the baton. And if you don't fall on your face, if you don't stumble, then you're the guy for the rest of the season. But we're sitting there 6, 7, 8 weeks into the season, and the Steelers are underwhelming. And Russell Wilson isn't holding up his end of the bargain. You bet your ass there are going to be fans saying, Justin Fields, let's see him. Let's see Justin Fields get out on the field and show us what he got. And for both these guys, they wind up in better situations. Justin Fields in a better situation for him right now in Chicago. Russell Wilson in a better situation for him right now than where he was in Denver, both going to Pittsburgh. And it's crazy that both of those guys are in that QB room. So Russ is the guy for now, and we'll see how much longer that will last. Samter, what's cooking? And I'm very distracted. Two reasons why. Samter's giving me this look that he has a take here, or he has some sort of retort. But the other thing is, I saw like a mystery man walk in. I couldn't see who he was. He had a box of what looks like was food. And now you're sitting there, and there's food that I can't even see. What was the food there?
Well, first of all, it was a she, not a he.
Oh, so I couldn't see the person.
Yes, there is some food outside. I didn't want to take anything because I didn't know what you would have wanted.
You didn't get me anything?
There's a whole box right out there, so I figured that during the break you'll take a look.
Was the person that brought the food, was the initials JC?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So JC going to take care of us.
Yes,
There's no doubt about that.
And there's a lot of really good options. It's just not the healthiest of options, but it's delicious.
We're talking fat food on a Monday?
Yes, but it's delicious.
Boy.
So,
see, I went to the gym today.
Yeah.
I was feeling good.
Yeah.
I came off what was a gluttonous, I will be the first one to admit it, gluttonous weekend.
Yeah.
Bunch of Italian food on Friday. Had a friend's 30th birthday on Saturday. It was all you could eat, all you could drink for $50. Great deal. Sushi. And that wasn't enough because Saturday night, after having a bunch of alcohol throughout the day, had to get the grease out of had to get some grease in the system. Had 2 slices of pizza. And then last night, I had a fantasy baseball draft, and it was a big Indian food night. So I
love
ate
Indian food.
Oh,
My God.
Phenomenal.
I actually had a vegetable samosa burrito just now from Trader Joe's. It was absolutely delicious.
So I ate like a fat pig this weekend. And I'm going down to the Jersey Shore this weekend, so I'll eat like a fat pig again.
Well,
so I'm
then
trying to
if
eat very healthy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, then don't have the food that's out in the box.
It looked like there was a burger there.
Yeah.
Is it Shake Shack?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Do they have fries?
And chicken sandwiches, too. I actually, for the show, took the last bin of fries. You're welcome, Zach. You can have as many of the fries as you want. And there's chicken, and there's burgers, and it's Shake Shack, and it's delicious.
I'm in pain.
So I don't have a take, but I do have a question based off of a very interesting development with the Steelers quarterback position.
Is this breaking news, or is this everything I just talked about?
It's what you were talking about, just a very interesting development that has come to light that's super interesting, and it makes me wonder and question. Mm-hmm. Now, all intents and purposes, all indications show that Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
The odds in Vegas for MVP in 2024, Russell Wilson plus 15,000, Justin Fields plus 6,000. Justin Fields is a better MVP odd than Russell Wilson.
So you're telling me Russell Wilson's at plus 15,000?
And Justin Fields at plus 6,000. Okay. Justin Fields has better odds.
That was not 1,500 for Russell Wilson? That was
15,000.
So we'll do this. I'm going to process that during the break, and I'm going to react to it on the other side. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And in a wild world where Kenny Pickett, the return for Kenny Pickett to be a backup in Philadelphia was greater than Justin Fields, who is going to be the backup in Pittsburgh, but there is a path, at least, for Justin Fields to get on the football field this year. We're coming on back. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. This is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Steelers now have Russell Wilson, but not only him, they also have Justin Fields. And Samter pointed this out, that Russell Wilson's MVP odds this year are plus 15,000. Justin Fields' MVP odds for this year are plus 6,000. Now, let me give you the hot take of the day. I will not be placing a wager on either Justin Fields nor Russell Wilson to win the MVP, because this is why you tune into the show, where the takes are sizzling hot, because neither are going to win the NFL MVP.
Ooh, scorching.
I can't believe I just said those words on a national radio.
You're going to get reamed all over social media.
It would not be the first time that the Steeler fans have wanted a piece out of your boy. And I will say, when Steelers fans come after me, I always find it funny, because it's always like a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old man or woman, when you look at their profile picture, you're like, oh, that's a sweet grandpa. Or, oh, that's a sweet grandma. And then the next thing you know, they have a mouth like you have never seen or heard before, and they're just mother bleeping me up and down all forms of social media. I still have DMs from the time that I said Big Ben Roethlisberger should just zip his lip and shut his mouth when COVID was going on, and he was bitching about how they had their bye week taken away because of Tennessee not following protocols and things like that. And I got the nastiest messages that maybe I have ever received. But what this does illustrate to me, Samter, is a very simple point here. This is Vegas saying that Justin Fields has a higher upside than Russell Wilson. And the ceiling for Justin Fields in the NFL in 2024 and moving on is in a higher point than it is for Russell Wilson. Because Russ's ceiling at this stage of his career is just being a good quarterback right now. Russ will never be elite again. Russ will never be a great quarterback again. But he is better than Kenny Pickett, and his ceiling is just being good. The intrigue with Justin Fields, whether you believe it or not, in him reaching that full potential, is there is a thought Justin Fields could still be a franchise quarterback for a team, but it was the Chicago Bears who messed it up more than Justin Fields, who blew his opportunity. So that's the way I basically, Samter, interpret this one, is this is Vegas telling you, and this is something that I believe in, that for now and moving forward, even though Russell Wilson's going to be the starter, and he may never give the baton back to Justin Fields for this year, and he may take it to the playoffs and they lose in the first round like the Steelers have been accustomed to now ever since the 2016 season did end. But this is Vegas saying a thought that I share, which is that for a higher ceiling in the NFL, it's now Fields over Wilson, but that doesn't mean Fields gets that opportunity this season.
If you had to put a percentage on it, what are the odds that Justin Fields, I'm not saying week one, just at some point in the season, takes the job from Russell Wilson?
There is a 0% chance that Justin Fields is starting week one. The only caveat I put in there is if there is an injury. Like if Russell Wilson physically cannot perform, cannot play, that's the only way Justin Fields is on the field week one. But at some point this season, and let's take injury out of the equation here, I think there is I'll go 60% chance that Russell Wilson is the starter from start to end, and that opens up a 40% window for Justin Fields at some point this year to get on the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm taking injuries out of the equation when I give you that number. The Steelers fully intend for Russell Wilson to be their starting quarterback from start to finish. But Russ needs to play well. And when Russ doesn't play well, or if he doesn't play well, for a 2 or 3 game stretch, it's just inevitable. Like we've seen this before, where there's a backup quarterback who is popular. And just because you're popular, it doesn't mean that you're good at your job. But when you have a following, and there is a carrot that's dangling over you, and you kind of saying, there's something intriguing there, people, when you don't satisfy them, say, okay, let's see the other option. Let's see what's behind door B. And right now, what's behind door A, you know it's solid, you know it's good, you know it's fine, but there could be an expiration date. And Russell Wilson, as long as he plays solid football, good football, and doesn't go into stretches where there's back-to-back-to-back bad games, there will be no need to put Justin Fields on a football field in 2024. But the moment Russ stumbles, the moment he trips up, then yes, it opens up a door for Steelers fans to start waving their towels and saying, get Justin Fields to be QB1. And the moment that happens, sooner rather than later, that's when Justin Fields usurps Russell Wilson. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. So a lot of reaction to get to from the March Madness bracket being revealed. So we'll get into my biggest takeaways later on in the show. But the biggest conversation piece, and I tweeted this out even before the brackets were revealed, because I had a feeling with how many bids were stolen, there was going to be a lot of frustration because there was going to be deserving schools that didn't get into the NCAA tournament. I will make myself perfectly clear on this show if you missed it on social media. I think you're a loser today if you are sitting in front of a TV screen, you're sitting in front of a microphone, you are on social media, and you are imploring the NCAA to expand the NCAA tournament. 68 teams is enough. It doesn't mean that in some years, and this could be a year, where you're saying, there's a few teams that should have been put in that weren't put in. But we don't need more than, 68 teams. And right now, I get people that have tweeted me and interact with me in the last 48, 72 hours, whatever it is, leading up to the tourney, and then once the brackets get revealed that go, oh, well, who wouldn't want to see another week or two of March Madness? I'm sorry. When the tourney starts, I'm excited. When the tourney ends, I've seen enough basketball. I have. And we don't need to now make this a participation trophy tournament. Like, people were furious when they went from 64 to 68, for crying out loud. Now we're going to expand it from 68 potentially, and ultimately the NCAA will do that because the NCAA are a bunch of greedy pigs, and if there's more ways for them to make money and to help out some of the bigger conferences and get in more bigger conferences and more teams from those bigger conferences, then they'll do it. But it doesn't mean it's necessary, and it doesn't mean it's right. It's the same damn thing as the college football playoff. Most years, there's not a need to see more than 4 teams in the college football playoff. Then they go to 12, and we don't even get to enjoy one installment of 12 before there's already reports that a 14-team playoff is getting finalized 2 years from now. There's just no need for it. But what there is a need for is a ton of greed and making more money. And whenever you could offer someone more money, they take it. But I look at the biggest takeaway in the snubs, and you could say Pitt, you could say Indiana State. When you have UConn, though, as the number 1 overall seed, you have Marquette as a 2 seed, you have Creighton in the Big East as a 3 seed. I didn't think that was where you were going to draw the line with Creighton for the Big East teams getting in. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you St. John's, Providence, and Seton Hall all needed to be in. On Friday, before a lot of these bids were sold and we see maybe the craziest Saturday that we've ever seen, I thought that at least 2 of them would get in. Then when Selection Sunday rolled around, I thought at most 1 of them would get in. But it doesn't make sense when you have a team like Seton Hall, who's like lower rated in the KenPom and then also the net rankings than St. John's and also Providence, depending on what you look at. But Seton Hall had 13 wins in the Big East this year. Like, you win 13 games in the Big East, you think that should be enough? I would think so. But to only put 3 teams in from a great basketball conference and not just give them a 4th, that was my biggest gripe with the committee. And I know if you're an Indiana State fan, where you're ranked 28th in the net, and then in KenPom you're ranked 45th, you're like, oh, well, what about us? And if you're a Pitt fan where you're 40th in the net and 40th in KenPom, you're like, oh, what about us? Totally get you. You have a gripe. And Virginia's the most controversial one. They were 54th in the net, and they were 69th in KenPom. So there are arguments to be had. But I thought with the name of a Rick Pitino, by the way, who's 32nd in the net, and then in KenPom he was 25th. I thought for sure, whether they were deserving or not, St. John's was going to get in, also because of the name presence of a Rick Pitino. But that just doesn't add up to me. Use whatever analytics, use whatever explanation you want, and argue teams that beat this, blah, 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 blah. But when you have the number 1 overall seed in UConn, you have the number 2 seed in Marquette, and you have the number 3 seed in Creighton, I wouldn't think when you go to fill out the rest of the 68 teams that not at least 1 more Big East team would get in. You could debate if you thought it was St. John's, Providence, Seton Hall, until you blew in the face. I don't care. I just thought 1 of those teams would have found a way to get in to 4, even with all these bids that were being stolen. It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Santa's got some questions for me. He doesn't got any burgers for me. He doesn't got any chicken for me as well. Not that I was going to eat it, but it's just the principle where this is another moment where Santa's been offered food here and he deflects. He doesn't look after me. And the person that offered Santa food said he will put the food, or she will put the food in the newsroom. And she put what? 5 minutes before I took a break, like
at
10 burgers?
At least 10. I mean, I would say 5 or 6 burgers and 5 or 6 chicken sandwiches. At least 10.
Okay, so there was 10 sandwiches. I take the break, and I know that you put things in the newsroom. It's like throwing meat to sharks that are in the ocean that haven't maybe had anything to eat for a day. You know, I understand. It's like throwing meat to a hungry pack of wolves, and that thing goes quickly. But we are now a little bit later in the day. It's a Monday. Some people now with all this working from home nonsense, they get to extend their weekends and stuff. And they don't come into the office on Monday. I go out into the newsroom and I say, all right, let me peruse. I wasn't going to have any. You know, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm not going to eat like a pig this week. But I walked over. I said, Santa, where's all this food? And the box was already in the trash can because all the vultures here, they already took down all the burgers and the chicken sandwiches.
To my defense, I've been here long enough to know how often and how quickly things go. And typically,
your
at
analytics
this time
were bad.
in the day, there's only a few people in the newsroom. Mm-hmm. So for 10 things to go, A, people took 2, or B,
Bunch of
people
fat
came from
asses.
all around who normally aren't here to take, because there's like 3 people back there.
Mm-hmm.
So unless all 3 people took 3 burgers, how all of it went away, I have no idea.
Well, you know what? There's a certain analytic that we probably haven't been using, like Ken Palm, Net. We don't even know what any of that stuff means anymore. There's the Marash analytics now. Marash now works in the afternoons. He used to work in the mornings. I bet you Marash, who is looking a little bit slim these days, looking slimmer. I bet you he has a chicken and a burger on his plate. There's no doubt about it as well. So the NCAA may need to change what rankings they use and what analytics they use, and maybe we have to do when it comes to food here at CBS Sports Radio. Onside, offside, next. Update time first. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility, great pay, and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. The Bills are hanging on to one member of their secondary, with Taron Johnson getting a 3-year, $31 million extension, while Leighton Vander Esch is retiring at 28 after his release by the Cowboys due to neck injuries. Duquesne head coach Keith Dambrot retiring after the tournament. The 65-year-old led the Dukes to 4 wins in the Atlantic 10 tourney to get the automatic bid in their first NCAA tournament appearance since 1977. The Timberwolves are trying to stay afloat without all-star Karl Anthony Towns, currently 3rd in the West, a game behind the idle Thunder as they get ready to take on the Jazz in Utah thanks to their other all-star. All is not lost. Mike Conley said Anthony Edwards has raised his level of play with Towns out.
He understands what we need from him, and he understands that for us to be a good team, he has to be, Edwards every night. And you can't have nights where he's, not feeling it or not a great mood. He's got to be locking up on defense, being a hound, blocking shots, making plays for guys.
The Celtics go for their 6th in a row against the Pistons. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
All right, it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. All righty, Santer, what do we got cooking today?
All right, well, we've talked a lot about Justin Fields and the Bears and their trade. Obviously, he was sent to the Steelers. Reports surfaced that at least 3 or 4 other teams were interested in Fields. However, Fields only wanted to play for the Steelers, so the Bears honored his request and dealt him to Pittsburgh. Onside, offside, teams should never sacrifice a better trade to make an outgoing player happy.
With a younger player who really has done nothing for your franchise, I would say, yeah, you are right, Samter. That teams should never sacrifice a better trade to make an outgoing player happy. So in this case, if they truly did have a better deal, then you should have taken it instead of making Justin Fields happy. But with that being said, here's my exception to the rule. Let's say you have a franchise legend. Like, let's say you have a J.J. Watt and you're trying to trade him and you want to get something back. And you could ship him off to, I don't know, a team that has no chance for a 4th-round pick or a team that has a chance for a 5th-round pick. Then maybe sometimes previous history should matter. So you asked me, teams should never sacrifice a better trade to make an outgoing player happy. I am going to say offside, because the one exception is when you have a veteran franchise legend, and if it's not a drastic difference and you want to keep that relationship in a good spot with them, when you bring them back in a few years to honor them by that team, that's the only time I'm okay with it.
Now, all year long, it appeared that Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to be the clear-cut first wide receiver off the board, but a new report from The Athletic says that many teams have LSU's Malik Neighbors as their number 1 wideout. So onside, offside, you're okay with the team taking Neighbors over Harrison?
This is offside from me. This is an easy offside. I am not saying anything poorly about Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. I think these three wide receivers are all going to be excellent, and we're going to look back and be like, wow, playmaker after playmaker after playmaker went with the first three wide receivers off the board. Not only that, it's not just those three. This is a loaded, and I mean a loaded, wide receiver draft class. But I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best wide receiver in this draft class. And I think, quite frankly, he's the best player, period, in this draft class. So the question, you're okay with the team taking Neighbors over Harrison Jr.? It's not for me. And I think you're going to see three quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3. Caleb Williams go 1 to the Bears. We'll see the Commanders take. It's either going to be Drake May or Jaden Daniels. And the Patriots will take whatever quarterback that the Commanders don't take. The Cardinals at 4 become really intriguing. Because you could say Marvin Harrison Jr. is better. Can you fall back a few spots and get a Neighbors? Can you fall back a few spots and get a Dunze, still get future draft capital, and have someone else move up to 4, even if it takes Harrison off the board, because that 4 team's maybe looking for a quarterback, and then the team 5th ends up taking Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a possibility. That's something you got to weigh. I'm not saying it's that big of a drop-off from Harrison to Neighbors, but Harrison, to me, is still the best player in the draft and the best wide receiver in the draft. So I'm going offside when I'm asked, you're okay with the team taking Neighbors over Harrison. All right, next one, let's go.
Now, after winning another Super Bowl, the Chiefs are looking for a tax extension to renovate Arrowhead, but team president Mark Donovan made a not-so-veiled threat if the extension gets voted down.
These are not new taxes, and you keep both teams. I just know that for us, the Chiefs, we would have to look at all of our options.
Do those options include leaving Kansas City, Missouri?
I think they would have to include leaving Kansas City,
that's
but our
bullcrap.
goal here is that we want to stay here. And we're willing to accept a deal, which is actually better for the county to stay here.
You know what that is? That's him knowing I have the Chiefs. I have the crown jewel right now, not only in his own city, but in the NFL. The crown jewel. So I could use that as leverage to maybe get some money where I wouldn't maybe get it in other years. It would be a disgrace, a disservice, if the Kansas City Chiefs have to move somewhere. It'd be stupid.
Well, so here's the question. Onside, offside, the NFL should punish teams that threaten their fans of relocating to a new city.
No, because it would be hypocritical of me. Like, I'm not saying I like it, but it would be hypocritical of me because, like, if I had leverage in that situation, I would use the leverage as well. So you asked me the NFL should punish teams that threaten to relocate to a new city, offside. And plus, the NFL would never do it because they're never going to punish teams if they think moving can make them more money or they think moving could get them a place to save more money from maybe getting those resources elsewhere. It's not happening now.
Now, the Jets, my old team, the Jets, their main priority this offseason was obviously upgrading the offensive line to protect Aaron Rodgers. And so far, they've landed 2 of PFF's top-rated tackles, adding Morgan Moses, who's number 10, and then number 2 on that list, Tyron Smith, former Cowboy, signed with the Jets for a 1-year deal. Now, onside, offside, the Jets obviously got their 2 bookend tackles, but the Jets should still look to draft an offensive tackle with that 10th pick in the draft.
So bringing in Smith, he's phenomenal when he's healthy. So the logical thought here should be, oh, well, you go still draft a tackle, develop that tackle in front of a good veteran body. But I'm not going to use logic here. This opens up the door for the Jets to get another playmaker for Aaron Rodgers. And they still need a second playmaker. Like, I'm talking about a pass catcher. I'm not including Breece Hall in that. Right now in their offense, they have Garrett Wilson. They really don't have that much else to throw the football to. Could you get a Brock Bowers at 10? Possibility. Does maybe one of these wide receivers fall? Does that 4th wide receiver emerge? Then you go take it at 10. Possibility. So the Jets should still look to draft an offensive tackle with the 10th pick in the draft? Nah, I'm going for the stars. I'm going for flashiness. I'm going for offense, high-octane offense, and usually an offensive line enables you to do that, but I want to go see them now get a playmaker. So when you ask me that question, I'm going to go offside.
Offside.
Now, last one, the Dodgers' huge free agent acquisition, Shohei Ohtani, is coming off of Tommy John surgery, his 2nd in his career, and obviously won't pitch in 2024, despite 700 million reasons why he, should be out there as much as possible.
Someone took Ohtani as a pitcher in my fantasy baseball draft last night. It's a keeper league. They took him later, and they're going to store him for a year and then get a great keeper pick for Ohtani being a pitcher the following year. It's actually a brilliant draft strategy.
Well, it could be brilliant. It also could backfire if what we're hearing could actually be true. Apparently, the two-time AL MVP will apparently start a throwing program with the Dodgers that will allow him to possibly play the field this season. Onside, offside, the Dodgers should not allow Ohtani to play the field and risk re-injuring his arm.
1,000% on sides. With the contract they just gave him.
I don't get it.
It's not only that, but it would be one thing if the team sucked, right? This is an all-star team. This team is loaded, absolutely loaded with talent, and this is a long-term play. And it's not as if he's coming back to pitch this year. It's him coming back to play the outfield. Just keep him as the DH the entire year. There is no need to have him throwing at all this year. Wait, you protect your investment. I'm okay with him doing some throwing on the side, but there is no need for him to return this year to throw. It's not going to be on the mound, but in the outfield. Just makes no sense whatsoever.
Could you imagine if he's trying to throw a runner out at third or at home from like right field, and he ends up re-injuring his arm on like some meaningless throw at a base to try to like nail a runner?
And that then ends because there is going to eventually be a time where they say, okay, only pitcher, only hit, and it's going to be hitting. Or maybe they move him into like the closer or something. That would expedite that process. And that'd be the worst thing for baseball. And it'd be a bad thing for the Dodgers because this unique ability of having Ohtani be one of one, great pitcher, and then great at the dish is so fun. I'm okay delaying the pitching part or any of the throwing part for another season. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. The SEC Player of the Year from Tennessee, Dalton Knecht, is going to connect with us coming up 20 minutes from now. From JUCO to the SEC Player of the Year. And coming up in this year's NBA draft, he is already projected as a top 15 pick. So excited to talk with Dalton Knecht. Coming up 20 minutes from now, Bobby Regan from Barstool Sports going to help us fill out your bracket in an hour from now at the top of the hour at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. So here's where I'm at with the Dallas Cowboys. And here's where I'm at with Dak Prescott. I've said this for a while now. It will get ugly. There will be a lot of drama. This is what Jerry Jones loves. At some point, whether it's this year or next year, they'll get a contract extension done. Because a few years ago, we went through this same song and dance. Jerry tried to tell us how smart he was and how advanced he was and how he had a higher level of thinking than us. And there was that whole weird analogy that he used where sometimes you're in a forest and you cut your hand open, and to get the hand sewn back together to stop the bleeding, you may use some things from your bachelor's degree where that may not be your main focus on what you were doing professionally from the better degree that you got in your master's degree. It was a bunch of stuff that I was like, what the heck is going on with Jerry Jones? And that analogy, I'm sitting there saying, when is he going to make sense? When is he going to make sense? But ultimately, when the Cowboys had to, even with through all the dragging of Dak Prescott and even with all the conversation, how much are the Cowboys actually in on Dak Prescott? When the clock was about to strike midnight, when you were in the 11th hour, they got the dealio done. And that is what is ultimately going to have to happen here. The question just becomes, is it this year or is it next year? Now, there's been a slight, and I mean a really slight, alteration in the Dak Prescott contract. Michael Gelkin, who covers the Dallas Cowboys for the Dallas Morning News, I think he did a good job summarizing it on social media. Cowboys and Dak Prescott are off to a strong start in contract talks, demonstrating collaborative ability to help team manage finances. Prescott was willing to add 2 void years, leading to $4 million in 2024 cap savings. Good sign for a capacity to achieve an extension. So, Samter, I'm not going to move off my stance that ultimately this deal will get done. But the way that it's been being positively received from the Dallas media members, and I think even Jane Slater speculated this just kicks the can down the road to August and maybe they get a deal done in August. I was seeing some conversation about this on social media today. I just think where you look at this from afar, and from afar you're saying, well, the cap hit for this upcoming season was almost $60 million in a final year of his contract. And this is what happens where they only save $4 million in cap for 2024, right? Like objectively from afar, if I wasn't plugged into the Cowboys and I wasn't plugged into the way that their organization works, I would say, well, they're setting this up for this to be a year where Dak Prescott has to prove it to get that extension, or they don't feel comfortable at this time in giving Dak Prescott the extension. Like, that was my first thought right away when I just tried to take this report on the surface, and I didn't try to use any logic, and I didn't try to think about this organization and what this organization does with the Cowboys, which they like the drama. They like all these things to get ugly because they care more at this stage about their names being in the news and all the speculation and people wondering what's going to happen rather than winning football games. It's the same damn thing with Jerry Jones. Hey, we're all in this offseason. What does it do? It creates talking points. It creates hype. It creates intrigue. And then the offseason officially gets underway. And are the Cowboys going to do anything? Where are the Cowboys? Dallas Cowboys? Bueller. Dallas Cowboys? Bueller. Dallas Cowboys? Bueller. Like, they've done nothing. They've done jack this offseason. And Jerry's been through this before. Stephen Jones has been through this before. Will McClay has been through this before with Dak Prescott, where everything looks like he's not going to get the deal done, and then the deal gets done. And this is the insanity part to me. And I preface this by saying I fully understand. I know that Dak Prescott had a good season this year. But it's amazing how Dak keeps on getting more leverage and keeps on having the Cowboys tied by the you-know-what. And this dude still hasn't played in an NFC title game and continues to not show up in the big spots. It's amazing. And this topic, it drives Samter crazy because the idea of the Cowboys having to give Dak Prescott a new contract where it's like $55, $60 million a year, it's insanity. And when you can get your money, hey, in this lethal sport, go get it. And we know the NFL, you don't need to be a great quarterback on the field to be paid as if you're a great quarterback. Just, you don't need to do so. We've seen it countless times before in the past. But that's the part to me that I love, is that now the people that cover the Cowboys, they even know when you get the local people, when you don't even need to play into this drama game. Because a lot of people are probably like me, where they first read the report today and it's like, all you did was save $4 million in cap? That's not looking like it's lining up to set up for a long-term extension. And this isn't looking like Dak, the Cowboys are telling you, is their guy, because you think they would take care of their guy right away. You'd think if he was your guy, you'd have maybe make him have to play out this year on a contract. Maybe a deal does get done this offseason. Maybe it does get done this summer. But to just see the way that Michael Gelkin is responding to this, it just once again shows you he knows how the Cowboys work. And even if this gets ugly, even if it looks like a little drama, they make the small little deal right now. Maybe a deal gets done this summer. But even if a deal doesn't get done this summer, I'm not going to sit here and think that Dak Prescott isn't getting eventually a long-term extension from the Dallas Cowboys. Because we've already seen this once with Dak Prescott. And it'd be different if you're a wide receiver, be different if you're a running back, be different if you're a defensive end. This is the quarterback of the team. Even though it appears like they're messing around with him, ultimately Dak will get his way. And it's wild that Dak, and I'm not going to say he's the quarterback with the most leverage in the league, because that would be absurd, because Patrick Mahomes could do whatever he wants right now, and the Chiefs have to bend the knee, and the Chiefs would have to listen. And look, like we didn't necessarily know this at the time, but then once you use your brain, Patrick Mahomes has helped out the Kansas City Chiefs. But Dak Prescott, he's not a top 5 quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback, but he's a top 5 quarterback when it comes to having leverage over his organization. Because even though there can be a case, and I'm sure, Samter, you can make it, why the Cowboys shouldn't extend him and why the Cowboys should make Dak prove it. Even if they go down this road where they present it like it's a prove-it year, everyone knows at this point he will be getting another long-term extension, whether it's this offseason or next, by the Dallas Cowboys. The only way it won't happen is if Dak doesn't want it to happen. And if maybe Dak says, I'm done with this drama, or I'm done with the Cowboys, and I'll go somewhere else. But where are you going? You're the face of the Dallas Cowboys right now. You're not giving that up. And there's not a team right now that I could really, I could see a team being interested in Dak Prescott, but where is Dak going to be interested? And I think there actually is one team that people will throw out there. They'll be like, oh, the Minnesota Vikings. That argument goes right out the door when the Vikings trade up to the 4th overall pick or the 3rd overall pick, or they take a quarterback at 11, or, wherever they are in the draft, and they're taking McCarthy, or they're taking Michael Penix Jr., or they're taking Drake May, whoever it is. There'll be teams that could be interested in Dak, but I don't think there's going to be one out there where Dak goes, yeah, I'm going to leave the Cowboys right now and pass up on all this money from Dallas, and then also everything that comes with being the face, even though everyone rolls their eyes at this, of America's team, Samter.
I'm just really interested to see, you're talking about what if Dak doesn't want to return.
Mm-hmm. That's the only way he doesn't come back.
Well, I think if they end up not doing the extension and he has
the last time he got hurt and still got extended.
Right. But
it was a gruesome injury.
Right, but I think at that point there was still a lot of hope for Dak, and that hope might still be there. He's played well. He's just fallen short in the big game. So, if the blame falls on him and Jerry and McCarthy or whoever, Steven, make the decisions that they just need to go forward with a different quarterback or change their entire roster,
okay,
it could be the Cowboys' decision, right? Maybe they'll say, hey, we'll keep you, but not for 50, 60 a year.
I disagree, but okay, continue.
You're probably right, but that could happen. Now, Dak could also say, I want out. Now, you say, okay, he's the face of the Cowboys. What more could you want? He has the face. He has the recognition. He has the sponsorships and the endorsements already. So maybe he could go to a different team, and he'll still keep a lot of that, just without the zoo that Dalton Schultz was talking about in Dallas, with all the distractions, without all the nonsense that come with being the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Think about all the quarterbacks since Troy Aikman, right? There have been some big names there that have all fallen on their face, whether it's Tony Romo or Dak or even
Tony
Drew
Romo
Bledsoe.
Did Tony Romo really fall on his face?
He didn't succeed in the playoffs. He had a great career.
But that's what the Cowboys are. The Cowboys for 25 years.
Right.
I don't think
But before that, they weren't. Before that, they were one of the all-time greatest franchises in the sport.
But I can't say Tony Romo and Dak Prescott have fallen on their faces. To me,
fallen
Romo,
short, fine.
Tony Romo and Dak, yes. But Tony Romo and Dak Prescott are what the Cowboys want. That's what they want. They want a good quarterback that anything the organization does, they're fine with. Dak is immune to this stuff right now. Tony Romo was immune to this. Well, if not, then why not go make a change? So you can get a better quarterback than Dak Prescott.
So one thing, I think that Jerry Jones is
he doesn't give
loyal.
a crap about winning.
I disagree. I think Jerry Jones yearns to win more than anybody. But I also think that Jerry Jones...
They don't show it.
I think Jerry Jones also, though, is a very loyal guy. Right? If there's a guy that he believes in, whether it's McCarthy or Jason Garrett or Dak or Romo, he's going to stick with that guy because he has loyalty.
That you're right on.
And so maybe he's misguided. Maybe he's wrong about Dak and Romo and McCarthy.
You think Jerry
and
Jones cares more about winning than all the drama that he stirs up? I've said this now for 3 years. He cares more about drama than he cares about winning.
I think that it's closer than other teams, but I do think he cares more about winning than the drama. But I do think that the drama and being in the news and the money and the bottom line do factor in more towards Jerry Jones's decision-making than most other teams. However, I think Jerry Jones is he's a former football player. He's a passionate football fan. He loves football, and he loves the Cowboys. He wants to win. Maybe even more so because he wants to shut people up who are doubting him and questioning him and calling him names, and he just wants to shut them up.
Are you talking about me? You talking about me?
So maybe there's some of that he just wants to shut people up and just kind of get that monkey off of his back. But I do think
that means you have to adjust and change. You don't do that.
Well, listen, it's hard for an 80-something-year-old guy to change,
It's
especially
been
when you've been successful.
25 years that they haven't done crap.
Well, but that's the weird thing. It's so because they've done so much. They're always like they're winning divisions. They're getting into the playoffs. They have such talent. People want to play, and the brand is still there, and people want to play for the Cowboys. And they have this gorgeous stadium. They've done so much. They just fall short in the playoffs.
They don't win.
In the playoffs, they win in the regular season year after year after year.
And
after
you know
year.
what is this? And I love hockey. This does not mean to be coming off as a negative comment. But what? Now we got to award out the President's Trophy to like the Dallas Cowboys and things like that. Like we don't reward regular season. The Cowboys, bunch of hot air. Whatever they do in the regular season, I do not care because it comes down to what they could do in the playoffs. But getting back, and I know we're going to Dalton Knecht. Like, where's that going? You know, Tua gets hurt. All right, maybe you could make a case for Miami. They don't want to get the extension.
I mean, if Aaron Rodgers is one and done with the Jets, I can see him go to New York.
Jeez,
the Patriots.
The
Patriots are drafting their quarterback.
From one circus to the next, you go from the Cowboys to the Jets. Oh, come on! Like Dak can't leave the Cowboys to go to the GT Jets. Come on.
If the Jets are willing to give him the money,
Pittsburgh. Right? Russell Wilson flops this year, then Justin Fields flops.
The Titans, maybe, depending on what happens with Levis.
You know, it's funny. Will Levis actually just texted me as we speak.
There you go.
I texted him over the weekend. We're trying to get it back.
The Raiders, the Broncos. There's a bunch of teams that, listen, if he's a free agent, he can go to the Giants. Stay in division. He knows those teams. Right?
That would be a
quarterback
big heel
unless
turn.
they draft somebody number 6.
The Giants are going to take a quarterback, though, in this draft.
Potentially, but if the Vikings move up to 4 and you get quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, 4,
I'll tell you where
maybe
the
the Giants end up not going with the 5th option.
The 2 best landing spots where I think could be realistic would be Minnesota, but that requires them to miss out on a quarterback, which I don't think
I can't see
happen.
Dak in Minnesota.
Here's the thing. Seattle.
Yeah, that could make sense.
Seattle has a good roster.
Tennessee makes a lot of sense, too.
You're not leaving the Cowboys.
It's near Mississippi.
You're not leaving.
You got that, SEC kind of country vibe. You're not leaving the
Cowboys
there.
to be the quarterback of the Titans.
Every year, it seems like every big name is tied to the Titans at some point.
Yeah.
Right? Aaron Rodgers was tied to the Titans. Russell Wilson was tied to the Titans.
Tom Brady was.
Yeah, everybody was tied to the Titans at some point. So
they use Tennessee. That's what they do.
Yeah,
they use them.
Maybe that's that.
They use them, please.
Well, listen, with those 2 receivers and Dak, could you imagine Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins and Dak throwing on the ball?
Bunch of guys that don't win anything.
And he's got Tony Pollard. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Tony Pollard.
And you're going, hold on. We're going to put Dak. No, Tony Pollard is in Tennessee.
No, he's in Jacksonville. That was my mistake.
No, Tony Pollard is in Tennessee.
He went to Tennessee?
Yes, he went to Tennessee. He's a running back for Tennessee. But here's the thing. Dak, who can't win in the NFC, is going to go to the AFC? Huh? He ain't going to the AFC. He is not whether it's this offseason or next offseason, barring an injury, like another catastrophic injury, lock it up. 100% that this deal will inevitably get done. And this tweet from Michael Gelkin tells me all I need to know because he's not even dealing with the BS anymore. He's not even dealing with the bull junk anymore.
So here's the question, and the last question I'll have for you.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you know what? I can save this question, but what is the level of success that Dak needs to have this year for the Cowboys to be comfortable moving forward with him after 2024? But we can answer that down the road.
Win 10 games, make the wild card spot, and then choke it up on wild card Sunday. Ed Park in the Twitter world makes a good tweet. Where was Jerry Jones's loyalty with Jimmy Johnson? Ooh, how about them apples? Wasn't wrong on that one, but I got Samter's point when it comes to Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy. There's more loyalty than what people usually do think when it comes to Jerry Jones, who has this perception of being impatient. All righty. Dalton Knecht, the SEC Player of the Year from Tennessee. They'll kick off their NCAA tournament run on Thursday up against St. Peter's Thursday evening. Dalton Knecht will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
We continue. It's the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Now joining us as we get set for March Madness is one of the best individual stories of the NCAA tournament, from junior college to Northern Colorado, and now his first year at Tennessee. Dalton Knecht has been sensational. He is the SEC Player of the Year, and Tennessee will do battle Thursday evening as a 2 seed going up against St. Peter's. And Dalton Knecht is kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Dalton, first and foremost, congratulations on all your success. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and I've been doing great. Me and the team are excited to go out and put on a show for March.
Yeah, how do you kind of describe these emotions right now, that knowing come Thursday evening when the ball gets thrown up into the air, you're going to be playing in the NCAA tournament for Tennessee?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting for me because it's my first ever, March Madness time to play in. So I'm going to take it all in as much as I can, but also I got great teammates around me that's been there and done that. So they're going to kind of tell me or help me stay composed and stuff like that. So we're all going to be super excited, and all of us are looking forward to it.
What you've been able to accomplish individually this year, a lot of people are familiar with the story now. I kind of set it up when we introduced you, but how do you explain this success that you've been able to have at Tennessee, not just been able to fit with the program, but be the best player in the conference?
I would just say it's just hard work. I've been working super hard ever since I got here, as well as like the coaching staff have been there with me, helping me and grow my game. And I got a great support cast around me with my teammates. They're great players and great teammates to be around. So it's just real special to, get that award, being SC Player of the Year.
On the surface, it seems like it's been a pretty easy transition. How has it been behind the scenes? Was it a little bit tougher than the way that you made it look on the court?
No, it was super easy. Ever since I got here, Zakai, he was always asking me to go get some food or hop on the game with him, as well as Josiah and stuff like that. So that everyone, ever since I got here, has been super helpful. If I had any questions on the court or off the court, they're always willing to pick up the phone and help me or go get some food or anything. So ever since I got here, it was real special, and I can't thank my teammates enough for making this transition super easy.
Dalton Knecht here with us right now. We ask super serious questions on this show. When you guys were getting food, what's the best meal choice on campus? Just wondering, where were you guys eating?
We go to wing spots all the time, a place called Chicken Sack. So we go there quite a bit, and Z says that was the best wing spot. So I'd have to approve it with him.
Blue cheese or ranch?
I'm a ranch guy.
Oh, man. I think you were having a perfect year up until that answer. Why do you go ranch over blue cheese? You just never liked blue cheese?
No, never did, and I don't understand why people like blue cheese.
Well, it's pretty damn tasty, if I may so myself, but we'll agree to disagree there. Dalton Knecht here with us. Why was Tennessee? I know you talked about the relationship that you formed right away, but when you were kind of picking where you were going to continue the final year of your college basketball journey, what stood out to you with some of the other options that you had that made Tennessee the best destination for you?
There was a lot of great schools that I was talking to, and a lot of great programs, and I just felt like Tennessee was just the right place. It felt like the one word I could say to every single time I talk about Tennessee is it's special here. So that's probably the biggest thing that stood out, was I could tell the culture here is different.
Were you always this confident as the way that it perceives on the court? Like, to do what you did this year, it's such a unique and special story. Like, if I would have told you this offseason, once you selected Tennessee, that you would go on to be the SEC Player of the Year, would that be something that you would expect and you would believe right away?
I believe I could get it done, but also at the same time, I knew it'd be a lot of hard work, and you got to go out and perform every single night. So I knew it'd be super difficult to go get that accomplished, and it's just a big shout out to just my teammates and coaching staff for getting me in those right spots and letting me play how I could be. That's something that they were always on me about, is my teammates always wanted me to just play how I play, and they'll feed off of it.
Talking to Dalton Knecht right now, the SEC Player of the Year. I know that you grew a little bit later in life, but how do you kind of otherwise explain the delay in kind of your rise, why you had to travel through junior college, then to another stop before landing at Tennessee?
Yeah, I would say the late growth spurt kind of helped me. I was always a point guard, and now I'm a tall guard. So I'm a big guard now that that still has a little bit of guard play in him for a point guard. So I think it helped me. I get to play more position, and I think it overall helped me out.
At junior college and then Northern Colorado, what did that really teach you about the game of basketball in those two stops, Dalton?
JUCO, I kind of found myself, JUCO guys, I mean, they're tough, and you got to make it out of there with a tough mindset. So definitely helped me out there. And then at Northern Colorado, I developed a post game and learning coming off ball screens and stuff like that. So those are the two things that really helped me out, especially coming here.
Talking to Dalton Knecht right now. Going back to the SEC tournament, I know it didn't go the way that you guys wanted to. You're the number one overall seed. You lose in your first game up against Mississippi State. How do you just explain what happened during the SEC tourney?
We didn't come out physical enough, and we weren't the aggressors. We played a great Mississippi State team, and got to give them their props. They beat us twice, and we know we don't want this feeling to ever happen again, especially during the big tournament. So we know it lit a fire under us, and we're going to be super amped to go out there and go put on a show for our fans and make a run in March.
You guys have been such a positive story for most of this season. You've been getting a lot of praise. Now, some negativity after what happened in the SEC tournament comes your way, as you were just describing the feeling that was going through your body when it happened. Why can this group push it aside so quickly and go make a run here for Tennessee in March Madness?
Yeah, we know we're one of the best teams in the nation, and we're fine with people, kind of hating on us after the SEC tourney. So we're fine with all that, and we're just going to embrace it. And we're just going to go put on a show for our fans. And like I said, just go out and make a deep run.
People talk about your story, Dalton Knecht, then they talk about the team's success. And now people are wondering, can this group get to Tennessee's first ever Final Four? Do you feel that pressure? Do you feel that conversation that's kind of been deriving over the last month and a half regarding your squad?
I don't think there's no pressure for us. I don't think there's no pressure for any of us to make the Final Four. We're all just super excited. We're going to embrace it, and we know we're one of the best teams in the nation. So now it's just the time just to go put on the show. We know we got tons of hard work to do, and that starts off with the first game, and then just go from there.
Wrap it up with Dalton Knecht, who joins us right now for a few more moments on the Zach Gelb Show. I've seen that you've been projected to be a top 15 pick in this upcoming NBA draft. When you start to hear that buzz, knowing all the hard work and the growth in your journey, just how do you kind of process that when you start to see some of those pre-draft projections?
Yeah, I mean, it's real cool to see because it's been out of dream of mine is being drafted in the NBA, and being a top 15 pick is something very few could say that they've done. But also at the same time, I know I'm not really focused on that, nor do I want to care about that right now, just because I know we got one last run in this team, and I love the University of Tennessee and want to go put on a show for our fans and put on a show for the school.
A lot of people parachute into the sport this time of the year because everyone starts to fill out one of these brackets. So if people don't know your story, they're going to know your story by the end of this weekend, and hopefully it turns into a long run for the program where they get to highlight it even more. But if people haven't seen the SEC Player of the Year play this season in Dalton Knecht, what have they been missing out on, and how do you kind of describe your game?
I would say to describe my game is just fun to watch, and also that's a team thing. Is we're real fun to watch. Anything can happen. We got tons of great players that could go out and put on crazy highlights, and we're going to be a very scary team to play against in March.
You've played for a bunch of different coaches. What makes Rick Barnes so special with what you guys have been able to accomplish this past year?
I mean, Coach Barnes, he's a Hall of Fame coach. He's been to March Madness plenty of times and knows how to get wins. So we know we just got to lock in on him on the scouting reports and stuff and go out and just execute and, just listen to him because he's been there and done that. So we just got to go out there and put on a performance.
Last thing I'll ask you, you don't seem rattled by the big moment. You don't seem like success has really affected you. How have you been able to kind of block out all the extra attention that you received this year with now really being in the spotlight and being one of the more talked about stories and players in all of college basketball?
Yeah, it's definitely something real cool, but also, I just kind of had a great support cast around me to, make sure that I'm good and stuff like that. So it's kind of just, finally showing the world what I could go do, and just, living in that moment, something real special and few could do.
I know you probably pinch yourself a little bit in the moment, and you probably won't be able to process everything until whenever this run does end. But for your family, just wondering, you talk about the support system behind the scenes, just to see all your success this year. What have been some of your conversations like with your family as they deal with this success as well?
Yeah, me and my parents, we know we've been ready to go play in March, and we're super excited to go. They're going to come out there in Charlotte, so they're real excited, and we just can't wait just to go. We've been watching March Madness for tons of years. Now it's time to go play in it and go be in that type of an atmosphere.
Has it hit you yet? Just wondering, you guys knew you were going to the NCAA tournament. I know the SEC tourney didn't go your way, but has it hit you that come Thursday, man, this is for real. This is do or die time in March Madness, and everything you grew up watching as a kid, now you get to write your own chapter of history in the tourney.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's for sure kind of scary going out there. I could possibly play my last game for Tennessee Thursday, but also, we're all super excited, and we've been saying since we all got together as a group that we wanted to go make a special run in March, and we're super excited to go out and finally do what we've been working so hard to accomplish.
Well, Dalton, hey, your journey and your run this year has been incredible. We're looking forward to more of it. Thanks so much for doing this. Safe travels and good luck coming up on Thursday up against St. Peter's.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What we're trying to do, really just trying to get better every single day, and respecting the game and respecting the opponent by going out there and playing the right way, whether it's a banged up team who hasn't had a great season or it's a national TV game, trying to go out there with the same mentality every single night.
The Knicks have won their last three, starting the West Coast road trip with a pair of wins and look to extend the streak tonight against the Warriors in the Bay Area. OG Anunoby is out, but Jalen Brunson will be in after posting back-to-back 40-point games for New York. Leighton Vander Esch is announcing his retirement after being released by the Cowboys. The Bills bringing back Taron Johnson on a 3-year deal. Number check.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, news brief time. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Let's start things off with Kenny Pickett, the former Steelers quarterback, who is now the backup quarterback in Philadelphia. This is Kenny Pickett on leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I just thought it was time. It just felt like it was time from the things that transpired, and wanted to get a chance to go somewhere else and continue to grow my career. And the fact that it's in Philly, the place that I grew up, found the love for the game here with a great coaching staff, great players. I'm looking forward to meet all these guys in a couple of weeks when everyone gets back into town. But I think it's an awesome opportunity here to join this team.
And let's go to Kenny Pickett on his handling of the Steelers situation.
I think the communication, is what it is. It was behind closed doors. I'm confident in the way that I handled it. I handled it the way I should have handled it. I'm excited to be here. It worked out so well that Philly was the place I ended up landing in. So I think everything happens for a reason, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
And then Kenny Pickett was asked about this idea he refused to be quarterback 3.
Hey, Kenny, there were some reports that you refused to be an emergency quarterback toward the end of the year last season. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, I think that goes back to a lot of the communication behind closed doors that, didn't go the way that I feel like they went, how it's getting released. There was a plan there for that game. It went down exactly the way it was planned to go down that entire week. I was coming off the ankle surgery, so it is what it is. And, like I've been saying, I'm very happy to be here.
So I think this is easy to read here. Kenny Pickett thinks he got the short end of the stick in Pittsburgh. He thinks he got screwed over by the organization. That's why he wanted to leave. He wanted to go to Philadelphia, where he's probably thinking to himself, I'm going to be a backup anyway. I may as well be a backup on a better team than a backup with the Pittsburgh Steelers who already gave up on me. Now, I don't agree with that thinking, because if Kenny Pickett stays with the Steelers, they don't trade for Justin Fields. So what happens if Russ gets hurt, or what happens Russ just isn't that good? You get a chance to go prove yourself and rewrite history and rewrite the narrative about you. The only way you're getting on the field in Philadelphia, now if you get on the field in Philadelphia, it's a much better situation than what you have in Pittsburgh or what you had in Pittsburgh, but the only way you get on the field in Philadelphia is if Jalen Hurts gets hurt. It's the only way. Because say what you want about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl. I know that down the stretch he was not good, but he was also hurt. He still played. So unless he has to miss games, you're going to be holding a clipboard this year. Now, as for the Steelers, I commend what they did, because I do believe that originally they went into this offseason saying, yeah, we're probably not going to move on from Kenny Pickett. But then you see how little you could get Russ for, and then how little you could get Justin Fields for. They made the right decisions, because both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields going into the 2024 season, I believe, are better quarterbacks than Kenny Pickett. Here is Tom Izzo. He was on Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio with the great Christopher Mad Dog Russo. And Tom Izzo gave his thoughts on the NCAA tournament eventually expanding.
Are you in favor of this being expanded? Curious.
Well, I wasn't in favor until there was about one bracket left. Let's expand that damn thing to, 100 teams. But parity is so big right now. I think they're going to have to do something, but the excitement of the tournament is the excitement. And I never know, what is the true criteria? Is it strength of schedule? Is it the net? Is it the wins and losses? Is, the teams you play? Yeah. There's so many different things.
Well, no one knows what the heck is going on. But it doesn't mean that now we need to expand the NCAA tournament. It's how do you put out the best quality of teams in a 68-team field? Like, don't get me wrong. It stinks that Indiana State didn't get in, or St. John's didn't get in, or Pitt didn't get in, or Providence didn't get in, or Seton Hall didn't get in. But is any of those programs big enough where now we're saying, oh, that's the sole reason why we need to expand the tourney? No. The only reason they're going to expand the tourney, and they probably will, is because it's more money that could be made available and more money that they could get. That's why they're going to expand it. It doesn't mean it makes the quality of your product better. But to Izzo's point, it doesn't make sense to me when you look at net and Ken Palm. And let's just use Pitt and St. John's as example. In the net, St. John's was 32. In Ken Palm, St. John's is 25. they should have a spot in the NCAA tournament just based off those rankings. Indiana State was 28 in the net. In Ken Pom, they were 45. There's a big disparity between those two numbers, but still, you would think that they would be one of the 68 teams, but they weren't. Let's hear from one of the coaches who thinks he got snubbed by the NCAA tournament. Here is the legendary Rick Pitino on his St. John's squad in year one, not getting invited into the big dance.
With 32 in the net. Well, first of all, I think we all should probably never mention that word again because I think it's fraudulent. I think the net's something that shouldn't even be mentioned anymore. We had a good strength of schedule. Ken Pom, why mention him? We were 26 in Ken Pom. So I don't know. It's we tried to play a tough schedule. We tried to do things the right way, and we didn't get in. But I never make excuses. I respect the committee for what they do. They give their time. They give their energy to it. They didn't think that we measured up to their standards, and we'll take it very positively like men and move forward. We're not going to gripe. We're not going to say we got screwed. We're not going to. None of that helps. Bitterness does not help. I've had enough bitterness in my life to last a lifetime.
St. John's also declined participating in the NIT. I think there is some validity to what Rick Pitino had to say, though, about net and Ken Pom. Here is Kim English. When I saw Kim English, Providence team, take down Creighton, I thought they would get in. Then a lot of bids were stolen. Kim English, not too thrilled about his team not getting invited to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think the analytics are right? Yeah. I think you could schedule bad teams in your non-league and beat the snot out of them and beat them by 50 and 60. And I think coaching for so long has been a gentleman agreement. I mean, you have a large lead at the end of the game. You know, for health reasons, you take guys out to get some other guys opportunities to play. You take guys out. But right now, it might be a change in college basketball, where beating teams by scheduling to beat teams by 40 and 50 might be a thing to do. But when you get into this league, the analytics aren't going to look very good in league. So I do think there are some flaws in the system.
I think I have a really unique ability of identifying a young coach and knowing when a young coach is going to be a rock star. Years ago, I saw Danny Hurley coach at Rhode Island. I know he comes from the Hurley family, so it's easier. And his assistant was Bobby Hurley. And I have one analytic. It's insane coaching on the sideline. Like, there's just a certain level where you see a coach and he's on the sideline, or whether it's a basketball court or a football field, and there's just a different level of coaching insanity that goes on where you're like, that's a positive, and that's a dude that I want that's wired that way. I said about Dan Lanning when he got to Oregon, and I saw videos of him at Georgia having to get, like, held back. The same thing is there with Kim English. Like, I've seen Kim English coach twice this year in person. He's jumping up and down. He's stomping on the court. And then you hear the quotes that we've heard the last week from Kim English. I think he's going to be an absolute star. Let's go to Danny Hurley, talking about a little bit of that coaching insanity on the Big East snubs.
You're probably just a little embarrassed for the league, for such a proud league, and the whole thing is just kind of a shell game. And it just really comes down to what the committee values. To me, I don't understand how a Providence team could beat Wisconsin in the non-conference, Creighton, Marquette, and have those quality of wins and then not get in. How does Seton Hall do what they did in the second-rated conference in the country, win 13 games and not get in? How is St. John's so far off of the cut line, too?
Here's my only thing. I'm not freaking out about this, and you could use whatever analytics or whatever records you want to justify things. When you have UConn, who's the number 1 seed, you have a Marquette team who's a number 2 seed, and Creighton who's a number 3 seed. It just is stunning to me, even with all the bids that were stolen, that not one more Big East team got it. Whether you think that should be St. John's, Seton Hall, or Providence, I don't care. But I thought one of those other schools should have got invited in. Let's go to the Maggie and Perloff show right here on CBS Sports Radio. They were talking about paintballing, and somehow it led to a conversation where they want to throw down some dodgeballs against our show, and Samter is already getting pelted with some verbal shots. Listen up.
I think we should do a team-building activity. We get out to the range and play paintball.
How about dodgeball?
I'm not playing dodgeball with you guys.
Win that. What?
No shot. I'm not taking one in the face from one of you guys just because it's ha, ha, ha.
We should be a team that has to face another show. I think we should face the Zach Gelb show. I'm putting it out there right now.
Yeah.
I want smoke with Zach Gelb. I want smoke with Stu. I want smoke with Rich Ackerman. I want smoke with Samter.
Rich Ackerman,
Samter's
how
tough.
dare you?
I'll take an elimination that hits Samter in the head.
Samter's tough. Samter's a pretty good athlete. He's a baseball player and he's short.
Yeah, the small target thing would be tricky, but I think we could take them.
I give credit to EJ because some other producers around here on other shows will take shots at us and then never tell us. EJ goes, oh, take a listen to this and let me know your thoughts. I'm all in. See, dodgeball, it's just how quickly my arm goes. I am a big target, but I think Samter could be an assassin on that dodgeball court. But how about Pete the Body Bellotti basically saying he just wants to pelt you with a few dodgeballs, Samter? That's to be a humbling moment.
I mean, listen, if EJ's going to call me a small target, I'll be able to get Pete and EJ pretty easily because they're larger than normal targets. So I'm not worried about it. I feel like we would absolutely dominate those guys. They don't seem very mobile.
I don't know.
Again, Maggie would be the trouble.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if we would dominate. Well, Maggie wants no part of it. It was clear by her response. I think EJ can be fine. Bellotti, I could see him taking a dodgeball right off the gut. Bogish, I could see him taking a dodgeball like right in between the eyes, I would say. Perloff, I think he could be sneaky good. I saw some Instagram posts this weekend of Perloff like playing laser tag with a bunch of 12-year-olds. I'm assuming his daughter was at the party. I don't think it was just Perloff showing up because that would be a little bit creepy. But I could see Perloff just being good at like laser tag, paintball, and dodgeball.
I did see him on that same video, and he got nailed by a kid. So,
Zach Gelb Show, Bobby Regan next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We'll help you fill out your brackets. Coming up momentarily with Bobby Regan of Barstool Sports. Does a great job covering college basketball all throughout the year. As we got a whole lot cooking. Tourney technically gets underway on Tuesday with the first 4. But for me, when the ball gets thrown up in the air on Thursday, that's when I really start to feel like March Madness is back. Obviously, I would say the biggest storyline that did occur from Selection Sunday was the Big East only getting 3 schools in, when that is UConn being the number 1 overall seed. You then did have Marquette being a 2 seed, and then Creighton being a 3 seed. But with all things being said, no St. John's, no Seton Hall, no Providence as well. And what a crazy weekend it was with all the bids that were being stolen. So let's talk all things March Madness right now with Bobby Regan of Barstool Sports. Regs, appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this. And how you been, my man?
It's hard to say I've been bad when it's March, but I'm sick of fighting with everybody, with the committee, and trying to voice. Listen, I'm just a guy, right? Like, I'm just a blogger, college basketball fan at heart. Arguing about the committee almost ruined Selection Sunday. I say almost because it's hard to do. We lived through a year where they did it alphabetically. That was like a 3-hour process. Like, we've lived through a lot of dumb things. Yesterday was one of the worst, if not the worst. And I'm older, right? Like, I'm in my late 30s, so it's not like it's a new thing. It was one of the worst seedings and reasonings and inclusion of Virginia that I've ever seen in the tournament.
Well, none of it made any sense to me. Like, so
that's the thing.
So and it's funny, and I know it's on CBS, but UConn, they're like, oh, their road's easy. And I'm sitting there on my couch saying, They're the number 1 overall seed. It seems like they got the toughest road out of any of the 1 seeds.
They did. Like, everyone was arguing whether or not Iowa State would be a 1 seed. They're not even the highest 2 seed. Like, you're not allowed to have the highest 2 seed in the number 1 overall bracket. Well, they revealed that right away, and everyone just kind of went, okay, so who's the number 1 overall 2 seed then? It makes no sense. Like, there's a shift. I don't even remember how many years ago. The shift of like geographical preference, and I get it. Like, the number 1 overall seed should, and it makes sense this year with UConn being able to have Brooklyn and Boston back to back. You should be rewarded for that. You shouldn't be punished when you're the number 1 overall seed and you draw 3 champions from the next 3 best leagues. There wasn't flukes in there either. Iowa State has been really good all year. Auburn has been really good all year. And Illinois has been really good all year. So it just makes no sense. Like, I don't understand why they come out with these rankings after the bracket reveal so you can see like the overall seed list. Just put it where it makes sense. That's all we're asking for.
Bobby Regan here with us from Barstool Sports. Does a great job covering college basketball all throughout the year. Who's the 1 school? Because, like, I'm not up in arms. Don't get me wrong. A lot of it didn't make sense. I'm not going to sit here and say we need to expand the NCAA tournament. But who's the 1 school today when you look that they didn't get an invite that you say, okay, that school was the school amongst all the others that really got screwed the most?
Honestly, there's like 6 because I don't understand how Virginia's in, right? Like the committee kept saying, well, we looked at non-conference schedule, strength of schedule, which first off is dumb because you have an overall strength of schedule. Then they said they looked at quality wins and road wins and neutral wins. Okay, so a win against Florida is really what's carrying the weight for Virginia. Like, they lost to Pitt at home. How is that rewarded? So, you look, and it's impossible to come up with 1 team because they gave all these reasonings. And it's like, they even mentioned metrics. Well, Virginia's the lowest ranked KenPom team. So, I think Seton Hall, I think St. John's, I think Indiana State, I think Oklahoma to a degree. They all have legitimate gripes that, in terms of left out versus in, they all should be in over Virginia. And what bothers me is we still don't know why. There was not one thing where they said Virginia was better than all these teams in this category, and that was why. So you could come up with even more. I mean, Providence to a degree. I think Providence was the 3rd of the 3 Big East teams if you're ranking of who was left out. I would have had them above Virginia. Like, I just don't get it.
The other thing that I don't get with the Big East is, okay, you have UConn, who's the number 1 overall seed. Then you have Marquette, who's a 2, and Creighton's a 3. I understand so many bids were stolen, and it took some spots away that they thought that they would have. And going into Sunday, I said, all right, probably only 1 other Big East school gets in. But the fact they didn't even put 1 other Big East school in when they have 3 teams that are 1, 2, and 3, that's another thing that doesn't make any sense to me.
And only 1 of the first 4 out. It's not even like St. John's was considered. They weren't even close when you start really looking at it.
And St. John's has a net ranking? It was 32 and KenPom of 25. Which I don't. Yeah. As Patino said, all those numbers, I guess, are fraudulent now.
I said it today in a blog where, first off, we need what I hope this really does is change, and it won't because it's the NCAA, but they need to get rid of the 12 athletic directors who make up the committee. Those 12 athletic directors change every year. It's not always the same 12. So what that does is 2 things. 1, you never know what they truly value because it changes year to year. 2, they're athletic directors. You need to, have 2 to 3 athletic directors part of the 12-person committee. Have full-time people that know the sport and can look at just besides a sheet and go, okay, this happened because of this. This team is that. It's not the 36 best for the at-large. It's the 36 most deserving, which kind of gets lost in the arguments because you sit there and go, well, this team's better than that. And it's like, well, that might be true, but it's the whole point of the at-large is deserving teams, which that's the other part of the debate. But you need people that are truly locked in year round. You need people to do this full time. You can't have 12 athletic directors come in, change year after year, because coaches don't know what matter when they head into the season.
Talking to Bobby Regan, when we get into the bracket now, I know talking to you through previous years, whenever everybody is on one team, you are usually not. With UConn, though, like if anyone usually asks me UConn or the field, and it's one team and then 67 other teams, field. But I felt this way now for almost 2.5 months. I can't pick against UConn. Will you pick against UConn, though?
I will. I mean, I think UConn's the best team in the country, but best team in the country doesn't win this tournament often. It's not like a regular occurrence. I mean, you look back throughout the last, 15 years, and it's maybe 3-4 of the best team in the country heading into the tournament that won. I will pick against UConn. History tells me to pick against UConn.
Will you pick against them to get to the Final Four, though?
So I keep trying to figure out how. I can't. And I want to, just because, again, history says it's so hard not only to go back-to-back in title games, but back-to-back to a Final Four. It's hard to do. You still have to win 4 in a row. I just, who's beating them? Who do you trust coming out of the bottom half of the bracket? Do you think they really stumble against Auburn, assuming seeds hold? So I think UConn makes the Final Four, but I'm going to pick against them to win it. I just don't know who, because UConn's the best team in the country.
I'm not saying to get to a Final Four, but you maybe look at maybe one of the top 4 teams, if it's someone outside of the top 4. What are your thoughts on Mark Pope's squad with BYU?
They're tough because when they are shooting the ball well, they rely so much on the three-point ball. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's all schematic. We've seen teams win that way. We've seen teams lose that way. But when they shoot the ball the way they do, and when they are having one of those nights that they did against Kansas, or they've done in the past this season, they can beat anybody, because Zach, 3 more than 2. It's pretty simple math there. However, we saw it in their loss in the Big 12 tournament. They went down early big because they couldn't score. And that's the fear with the BYU team of, hey, we play fast, we play reckless, we shoot a ton. Our defense isn't awesome, but we can outscore the majority of the country. All it takes is one bad shooting night, and you lose. So I wouldn't be surprised if BYU. I mean, I could see BYU giving them a challenge, playing it close. If they win, then yeah, they probably shot the what out of the ball. But I could also see them losing in the first round just because of their style of play.
Talking to Bobby Regan, let me move over to the Midwest. So I like the 1 and the 2 seed here just from a storyline. Purdue with Matt Painter struggles in the NCAA tournament. I know we just had Dalton Knecht on, but his coach, Rick Barnes, struggles in the NCAA tournament. So I will not pick Purdue. I will not pick Tennessee to go to the Final Four. I have more confidence in Tennessee than Purdue. Who's the team, when you look at that Midwest, that you have the most confidence in to get to the Final Four?
No one.
I'm going Creighton, I think. That's what I think I'm going to go with.
Sure, but they don't make Final Fours.
Yeah.
Right?
Good
It's not like
last
McDermott. But they still lost in the Elite Eight. And you could say they, quote, choked that game away. That's kind of how, everyone says that about Purdue. Well, they were one of the most ridiculous plays in NCAA tournament history away from making a Final Four when Virginia had that missed free throw, full court pass, Diakite forces overtime. Yeah. Then we're talking about, Painter's going back to his second Final Four in 5 years. Instead, and I'm looking at it now just to make sure, because the Midwest is the one that I really, really can't figure out. I think Gonzaga is a really good team. They've been playing well. I know they lost to St. Mary's in the title game, but
it seems like everyone likes McNeese in the first round because of
that's kind of why I lean to Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of my contrarian view of everything, of especially upset picks. Everyone 12 over a 5. It happens to be McNeese. Gonzaga could just make the Sweet 16, and I that's what I think they're going to do. I think they're in the Sweet 16. I like them more than Kansas and Samford in the same quadrant because we don't know about Kansas's health. Right now, if you tell me Dickinson and McCullough are completely healthy, are we really counting out Self from just making another Final Four?
Yeah, and a few years ago, everyone was kind of counting them out. No one was talking about they ended up winning a national championship.
Right. And it's like, yeah, they don't have depth, but they have 5 really good players. So I can't figure out the Midwest. I think Purdue gets it. Their guard plays a lot better. The bracket does kind of set up nicely for them.
And no one will pick them, too. That's why it kind of plays games with your mind specifically.
That's the thing.
Outside of everyone on CBS last night, I couldn't.
Right.
I know that you have a lot of people connected to the game. You're rooting for Matt Painter. People should want to root for Matt Painter. But I can't walk into this tournament with any confidence he gets the job done.
But the thing is, in their bracket, out of these 16 teams, you can't pick any of them because no one wants to pick any of these guys.
UConn should be the 1 seed in this.
That should have been. I agree. I think. Listen, it pains me to say it because I'm a Kentucky guy. Tennessee's really good, but UConn should be running to the table to trade with Purdue.
The region, by the way, that I love the most is the South. I love what Sampson's done at Houston. I know the Kolek injury is going to be big. It looks like he's going to play with Shaka Smart. You got Duke. I know that they're not great, but it's still Duke. This is and Kentucky too. They're getting hot at the right time, or they were right before the tournament. Like that South region, I'm going to pick your Wildcats to get to the Final Four. But man, that's the one that I'm most intrigued by. And any answer you give me probably wouldn't surprise me.
I hate that everyone's picking Kentucky. I've seen way too many people talk about, and I tweeted out last night when the bracket came out. I was like, "Don't fall in love with the bracket. Don't fall in love with the bracket." Because the draw is nice for a Kentucky run.
Mm-hmm.
Like they play their best against fast-paced teams. Like their best wins, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, teams that want to get up and down. I know that sounds weird because Tennessee, but that's who they are this year. They struggle against teams that slow it down, like the A&Ms of the world with good guard play that can break Kentucky down defensively and then just beat you up on defense. So that's, obviously you get Houston, and that's exactly who Houston is.
And Reed's prime for a big tourney, you would think, too, right?
Yeah, but you take the chance for that to be the Elite Eight matchup. If you're, like, as a Kentucky fan, that's fine. Like, hey, maybe mayhem happens. Houston loses in the Sweet 16 or something. But, yeah, I think, similar to what we said with the stories of the coaches in the South, Shaka, you have coaches that need a run. Right? Shaka needs a run. He hasn't had one since VCU. Cal needs a run because it's a civil war in Kentucky right now, if you mention his name. Shire needs a run because everyone's going, all right, another 4 seed. What if we lose in the second round again? We're Duke. That's not supposed to happen. I don't think Sampson needs a run. He made a Final Four, but it was, the people that hate Houston or want to diminish what they've done, they'll say it was the bubble run. How do we look at that tournament? So it's an interesting because you have the names with Kentucky, Duke, Houston, Wisconsin, names we're used to seeing on the bracket and second weekend teams. But I think every coach needs a run. So to me, that you're right, it is the most intriguing because you have, I think, probably legit 4 or 5 Final Four teams in that bracket.
How about the West, too? You have one final run for Baycott, Arizona. Scott Drew's still there with Baylor. Bama, I don't like the direction they're trending in as we enter this tourney. Who's the squad in the West that you go, okay, that's the team I'd be most surprised if they don't make it to the Final Four?
I think it's Arizona. This is the best team that Tommy Lloyd. I think it's the best team.
I'm laughing because I don't like. We're agreeing with everything. That means we're both gonna have a lot of egg on our face after the first weekend.
I know, but it's like, again, I say coaches that need runs. Tommy Lloyd is getting bounced early now.
Yeah,
right. Like he lost to Princeton, didn't get out of the first round or the first weekend 2 years ago. So you have a Final Four in Arizona. If you get there, you're sitting real nice thinking you have home court advantage and everything like that. This is a team that was talked about as in the same breath of what we now consider the top 3 versus the field, right? So Arizona, they were there for the longest time. They need a run. I like them. You look at the draw. I think there's no reason for them not to be in the Sweet 16.
And
then
imagine
I
we
think
get
you can see
Caleb
Mayhem.
Love against UNC too. That would
It's
be
the
great.
storyline. It's the storyline that everyone wants. One of those two teams will not be there though. Every time we have that storyline, one of the two will fail. I wanted to pick Carolina to lose in the second round. I think they're the most vulnerable one seed. But man, Mississippi State and Michigan State are just so gross. Like that's the worst game of the first round, which means they'll probably win.
Yeah. Well, by the way, Bobby, give me like 2 or 3 upsets that you like in the first round, like teams that you're like, okay, they're underseeded and you think you're going to be able to be better.
So I originally was going to put Baylor as a Final Four team until I saw their potential second round matchup. I love New Mexico. I absolutely love New Mexico. I think it's ridiculous that they stole a bid by winning the Mountain West. They should have been in regardless. They have high level talent. I think New Mexico could be a second weekend team. I like, the other ones are pretty obvious. I think Grand Canyon got a nice draw against St. Mary's. They match up well there. And then you get Alabama, who can't guard me, you, and 3 people off the street.
And I love Kelsey. He's a madman at Charleston.
Yeah, right. So, but I think Grand Canyon has a nice draw for a potential second weekend run. Remember, I'm not saying it matters, but last year that bottom left bracket was mayhem the entire time too. It kind of has that same feel this year. And then you look around, like I think there's going to be a lot of upsets the first round, but I think the Elite Eight will see a lot more 1s and 2s there. I could see mayhem early and then kind of like, okay, everything settled down. That's just kind of the way the season's been going. I mean, you look at that Wisconsin, Duke, James Madison, Vermont quadrant. Would anybody be surprised if James Madison's in the Sweet 16? Like they already have a win on the road at the Big Ten. We obviously know that with Michigan State. I'm
curious by? I'm really curious by FAU because they had the run last year. In the regular season, I didn't think they played to what they were capable of. I wonder if that's a squad with how many guys they return. If when the lights come on, they just pop off. But then once again, you got UConn coming up in the round of 32. I don't care how much I love Dusty May. I'm not picking them to beat UConn.
And everyone said that, and then they go to the American tournament and lose to
Temple, my school.
Right. And no offense, Temple stinks.
Trust me, I know. Except I had to donate $150 to the NIL collective because I guaranteed $1 for every point and then $2 if they ended up winning. So I had to give $150 to them this weekend.
I also wonder, too, everyone screamed about FAU last year being grossly underseeded as a 9, and then they make the run. This year, it's egregious that they're an 8. Like, I don't even know if FAU should have made the tournament if you're looking at most deserving teams.
Yeah,
they have
the regular season.
A lot of bad losses. Yeah. So I almost wonder if they're just going to hold serve and like, hey, last year we were underseeded, made the run. This year we're overseeded. We'll just lose to Northwestern. And like then everyone can just stop yelling about us.
So it seems like, is this safe to say this is your Final Four? You're going UConn, Arizona, Kentucky, and then Purdue? Is that what you're doing?
I'm taking my heart is begging Kentucky. I how do I pick against Houston though? So I think it's going to be like Houston. Part of me wants to say Gonzaga.
Okay.
Just like there's got to be mayhem somewhere, right? So maybe it's Gonzaga, and then I think I do think Arizona gets there, and then UConn. I keep trying to pick against UConn, but it's not going to be 4 1 seeds. I'd be shocked if it's 3 1 seeds. I think you see kind of what we've been seeing of, 1 or 2 top 2 seeds, a 3 or 4 seed, and a 5 seed, something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it again this year, but obviously not have all 4, 5, 9 seeds in the Final Four like last year.
So who wins it all then? Who are you going with?
I want to say Houston.
Okay.
Like it's just is there really that big of I don't think there's that big of a difference between them and UConn. And I know Houston has injuries right now, but it's kind of all led to this moment, right? Like they make the Final Four. They were 1 seed last year.
They've been so close.
that's kind of been the theme the last few years, right? Like Self gets over the hump with a second tournament, second title. Drew gets one. Bennett gets one. Does it just kind of feel like it's going to be Houston? Like Hurley gets one last year. Like are we due for this run to keep continuing? And I think that's the biggest storyline is, does the next coach emerge? Because Hurley's now an all-time great.
Yeah, he is Bobby Regan. Make sure you give him a follow at Barstool Regs. We'll be following him all throughout the NCAA tournament. Does a great job covering college basketball all throughout the year. Bobby, always great to connect with you this time of the year. Thank you.
All right, thanks, man. Have a good one.
There you go. Bobby Regan joining us from Barstool Sports, one of my favorite follows throughout the year when it does come to college basketball. And you know what? I like his theory because I will pick UConn to win it all. I will. But everyone's going to pick UConn to win it all. I've been saying it for now 2.5 months. Not like a big revolutionary take, but it's almost, if you want to win the bracket this year, you're probably better off picking someone other than UConn. You just hope it's not UConn because then everyone's going to have UConn. All righty. We'll take a timeout. We'll come on back. It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
I do love this music. I do find it funny, though, that it is a Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We're coming back with this music, and people are probably going to expect, like, the next best segment of college basketball takes, and we just did about 23 minutes on college basketball. Now we're going to talk some football. Alrighty, let me get to a little RG3. I like RG3. RG3 has been on this show a bunch. I have hung out with RG3 before. I'm a big fan of RG3. But with all that being said, just because I know someone and I'm friendly with someone doesn't mean that I'm just going to dance around a take that they give. So this is RG3 on the aftermath after we see Justin Fields traded to the Steelers. Now RG3, when it's clear the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams, believes Caleb Williams should pull an Eli Manning and refuse to play for the Bears and go somewhere else. Let's listen up to RG3.
Caleb Williams should pull a Eli Manning and demand that the Chicago Bears do not draft him number 1 overall. After everything that's happened with just Justin Fields, can Caleb Williams really look at that and say, you know what? This is the organization that has my best interest at heart, and they're going to help develop me into the player that I want to become. After the Bears took Justin Fields, the 11th pick in the draft, and turned him into a 6th round pick in the 2025 draft by trading him to the Pittsburgh Steelers, can Caleb Williams really look at that and say, you know what? Yeah, this organization is going to help get me where I want to go. I don't think it's saying that.
So here's the one problem, and there's many problems with RG3's argument. I know the Chicago Bears have had a history of never finding that quarterback. But this is not a situation where you're like, oh, it's not a desirable situation now. Like, if we just forget about all the other years of history and you just look at the team, going into next year, you have Cole Kmet, who's a really solid tight end. You have DeAndre Swift, who's a solid running back. Then at wide receiver, more importantly, you have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And, oh yeah, by the way, you also have the 9th overall pick in the draft, where you could get another offensive weapon. So just there, I don't think the Bears are in a dreadful spot. And they're not the number 1 overall pick because they were terrible. They had the Panthers pick. The Bears actually did a nice job in the second half of the season. So I think the Bears are actually a decent, I'm not going to say great, good, but they're a decent situation to walk into for a team that has the number 1 overall pick. Now, here's the other part of the argument where I disagree with RG3. When you use what Eli Manning did, that also required the Giants, who were in at 4. The Giants took Phillip Rivers. This wasn't like the Giants were sitting at 12 and Eli just said he wanted to go to the Giants and you didn't have anyone really at 12 that you drafted. Like, you had Phillip Rivers, who was a hot commodity in the draft, right? That draft was Eli, Phillip, and Big Ben. So let's say Caleb Williams does this. The Bears then would have to get a quarterback back. So you would probably think that would still be in the first 4 picks. Here's the problem, though. The teams that are 2, 3, and 4 right now are the Commanders, the Patriots, and then the Cardinals. The Cardinals would trade Kyler Murray to go get Caleb Williams, I think. But forget about the Cardinals because I think they're rocking and rolling with Kyler Murray. And that is probably a trade bait kind of spot. Well, the Commanders right now are in a better situation than the Bears. So why would Caleb Williams rather go to the Commanders? I know he's from D.C. I'm a Patriot fan. Hey, Caleb, please refuse to go to the Bears. And say you want to go to New England. But why the heck would he want to do that? The Patriots have Jack. So then someone trades in to the 4 spot, and they're going to get the 4th best quarterback to trade to the Bears? It's all backwards. So I don't think you could, I think it's easy on the surface to just say, oh, well, Eli Manning did this, so then you could do it. Eli Manning also had the backing of the Manning family, which is a powerful family in football. So I don't think it would be right, or I don't think it would make sense. Because sometimes you do things that aren't right, but then they make sense. But in this case, I don't think it'd be right. And I don't think it makes sense from Caleb Williams' perspective. Like Samter, if they had nothing, if there was no DJ Moore, if there was no Keenan Allen, if the offensive, if they didn't just draft the big tackle, and they had nothing, they didn't have another top 10 pick, why? Then I could understand the argument. But the Bears are actually in a decent spot. So, okay, you're telling me that Ryan Poles and Eberflus could be fired after this year? I don't even necessarily agree with that. The Poles part, I don't. I think his time clock in some realm with the front office resets a little bit when you take a quarterback number 1 overall and everyone's praising you for getting that number 1 overall pick. Eberflus is a different story, but I don't think it's going to be that bad in Chicago this year where they completely flop and they're begging to fire Eberflus. I saw, I think it was RG3 said they had to win 10 games for Eberflus to come back. You're telling me they go 9-8 or even 8-9 and Caleb Williams shows a lot of promise and they're going to get rid of the head coach? I don't buy that whatsoever. So I'm trying to see the RG3 argument here, and I'm trying to, because I like RG3, I'm trying to see the other argument, and usually when everyone's slamming one person, I won't just jump on, but I just don't see how in any way this would make sense for Caleb Williams, because that's the lens that we have to view this through, because he's saying Caleb Williams should avoid the Bears pretty much at all costs, and I don't see where the alternative is that you're moving in a realistic way where you're going to go somewhere else, and the Bears are going to be cool with that.
And not even that, when Eli did this, the Chargers were a mess at the time, right? And the Giants were a desirable location. So, even though the Chargers ended up being good and Eli couldn't have foreseen that, he made a choice to leave a dysfunctional franchise or work his way out of a dysfunctional franchise to a good one. Where is he going to go that's not dysfunctional right now? The Commanders are 2? Dysfunctional. The Patriots are 3?
The Commanders are less dysfunctional now because you have Harris out, but it's not like they have a multitude of weapons. The Patriots are dysfunctional.
But we haven't seen anything from the Commanders yet with Harris, so we don't know. And Harris, he has the Sixers also, and they've been dysfunctional, so who's to say that the Commanders aren't going to be any more or less dysfunctional
and
than
don't
Snyder?
Forget about the Devils. They stink too this year.
So I'm not saying that Harris is going to be this wonderful savior for the Commanders. The Patriots, yeah, they have a good owner and crap, but they're fairly dysfunctional, getting rid of their coach.
They're 1,000% dysfunctional.
The Giants are a mess right now at 6. Maybe the only non-dysfunctional team would be the Vikings if they moved up. But if you're Caleb Williams, what other franchise that's looking for a quarterback early in the draft are you trying to force your way over to and get out of Chicago? I love RG3, but this is a nonsense take.
I agree with you. And not only that, I would say Caleb Williams would look tough in a Minnesota Vikings uniform, throwing that football to Justin Jefferson and throwing that football to Jordan Addison as well. But the Vikings have this reputation of never getting the job done anyway. But he would look tough.
No, he would look cool, but
he would look tough.
I don't know how tough you look in purple.
Oh, well, you could look tough
cool in purple, but you don't
just
look
because
tough in
you
purple.
don't look tough in purple doesn't mean other people can't look tough in purple.
So name one person on the Vikings who ever looked tough.
Justin Jefferson looks tough.
He doesn't look tough. He looks
yes,
cool.
He does.
He doesn't look tough. He's dancing, doing the gritty, and doing all these
Fine,
fun
Jared Allen. He looked tough.
No, he
what
didn't
about
look
the
tough.
purple
He looked cool.
people eaters?
The only
they
guy
look
who really
tough.
No, you know who looked tough? The only guy who I can remember looking tough was Jonathan Randall. He looked tough, but he looked tough when he took off that helmet and he had all that eye black dripping down his face.
Kick your ass.
Aiden Hutchinson looks tough in a Lions outfit. People don't look tough in Vikings outfit.
I think that's a terrible take.
Brett Favre kind of looked tough.
By the way,
guess.
I don't.
But he looked tougher in a Green Bay outfit.
I will say there's sometimes
Uniform.
Samter is very stubborn when he has a take that's just so wrong. I've never seen you though do a quicker 180 from one segment to then when we get to the break. And I hate to bring this up than last week. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because Ack is sitting next to me, and I just want to see Ack's reaction when I give him the take that you gave last week in the aftermath of Aaron Donald announcing his retirement. We were going through the top 10 ranked defensive players in NFL history. And Samter tried to make a case. And let me just fully put this out there before I reiterate the garbage that we heard from Samter. I do not agree with the Samter take whatsoever. I said so in the moment, and Samter's even acknowledged he was dead wrong about this. Samter tried to say, because of how long Bruce Smith played in the NFL, that he was not a top 10 defensive player of all time.
He definitely, I'd have to think about it, but I definitely would not put him in the top 5.
Okay, that's fine, but top 10. Guy had 200 career sacks.
Okay, I'm going to go Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White.
Mm-hmm. That was everyone's first two players.
Dick Butkus. There was somebody else from that era I was thinking of.
Coach Prime, would you do?
No.
Okay.
Bubba Smith, maybe. Ray Nitschke? No.
Look how many old school names we're going to get with that.
I'm just trying to think who else comes to mind.
Chuck
right away.
Bednarik? What about Chuck Bednarik?
Chuck Bednarik's not a bad one. I couldn't say that there. So
I just got the approval from Mac. He was like, "Oh, that's good that he got Chuck Bednarik."
That's not a bad one. So, but that's 4 right off the top of my head.
Ray Lewis, Aaron Donald.
I wouldn't put Bruce Smith in there. Derek Thomas. He's certainly in that group.
Well, I don't think you don't have your headphones on, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, so you couldn't hear Samter.
Okay,
Samter was saying Aaron Donald, Ray Lewis.
Aaron Donald's definitely in there, and Ray Lewis is definitely in there.
Ed Reed, maybe.
I might go Ed Reed.
So this was my thinking
Mel
at the
Blount
time.
is I think the equivalent to Ed Reed. So that's a tough one there.
Now,
Samter's trying to get a word in here.
Yeah,
Ack is just
thinking
going
at the
through
time
900 names.
Was Bruce Smith was a great compiler of numbers, but he wasn't overly dominated.
He was dominant.
Yeah,
he was
so
dominant.
so as I look back, I didn't realize that he was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
I knew that he was a great sack guy and that he was a great player, but I never thought of him as like an ultra dominant Reggie White type of player.
That's it.
I just remembered him being a guy who played for like 20 years and got a lot of sacks
Hey,
over
Chris,
that
do
course
me a
of
favor
his career.
when this clip gets thrown out there by people. Take my face off the screen. I don't even want to be in the
No, I'm not saying he wasn't a great
background
player.
of this.
My initial thought
Just
was
go
he
to
wasn't
Samter.
top 10. I went back, but I would still put him at 8, 9, 10
Anyone
that
but me.
range. I put him at 8 to 10 range.
I'm not besmirching Bruce Smith. I mean, he's definitely a Hall of Famer. I don't know if I'd put him top 10. I mean, he's close. But, I mean, think of the people we just named. Top 10 is pretty good.
That was my point.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So.
All righty. We'll take a timeout. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I'm furious right now. I may quit after this segment because Samter's going to get trolled by a bunch of Bills fans. And
Joe Green is another.
Yeah. True. And my face is going to be everywhere in this segment. And I vehemently disagree with Michael Samter. But anyway, that was the quickest I've ever, outside of Hickey one year trying to tell me, has to do with another Bill, that Carson Wentz was going to be better than Josh Allen. And right away it was like, oh, yeah, I was wrong on that one. I have never... You did a very quick 180, and I commend you for doing the 180.
I mean, your take, that's a little bit different. That's a prognostication. It's much easier to get that wrong than a memory of...
This was when Carson Wentz, by the way, was in Indianapolis.
Oh,
it's not like Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Yeah, that's bad.
In Philadelphia, there was that's Carson Wentz had almost an MVP season, so that was the...
Okay, I feel redeemed.
That was the Hickey take. But don't worry. If it's just, can you get a good take compared to the other CBS Sports Radio producers, your worst takes won't be as bad as some of the other producers around here. That's for sure. All righty, update time. Here's the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Chase Young, the former second pick overall, is on to his third team in less than a year, reportedly signing a one-year deal with the Saints worth $13 million, all guaranteed. Taron Johnson returning to Buffalo on a 3-year extension, while Cowboys linebacker Leighton Vander Esch is retiring. He has battled neck issues since coming into the NFL and was recently released by the Cowboys with a failed physical designation. Duquesne enjoying its first tournament selection since 1977, but this will be it for head coach Keith Dambrot, who announced he'll retire after the tournament. He is 65 years old. The Knicks are quietly establishing themselves as the contender in the East. They've been beset by injuries, but getting healthier, and Jalen Brunson has been playing at an elite level. They go for their fourth straight tonight against the Warriors, and the Celtics look to extend their winning streak to 6, going for their 54th win against the Pistons. We're coming off their 55th loss of the year, and the Timberwolves, now a game behind the idle Thunder in the West, will meet the Jazz in Utah. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is Jim Rome. Have a strong take? Then I want to hear from you. Weekdays from 12 to 3 Eastern, right here on CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Will in Boise says, Zach, what's your biggest takeaway from Selection Sunday? You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. All righty, I'll actually give you 5. Give you 5 takeaways.
You're setting a bad precedent for ATP.
Why?
They ask you one question, you give them 5 answers. I mean, now people are going to start bombarding you with stuff, and you're going to have to just keep adding on to it.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just tell them no.
Oh, okay.
No, I think there's 5 takeaways from this bracket. And it's not like, Cinderellas and necessarily all that. But there were 5 things that I just looked at when this bracket came out, and it just resonated with me. I'll go from 5 to 1. Like least intriguing to most intriguing. 5, can UNC finish the job? I look at that West region. I like Arizona to get there, but I can't say I have a lot of confidence in Arizona. Baylor with Scott Drew. We all know he's a phenomenal coach. I do not like the way that Alabama's been playing down the stretch. I think Pat Kelsey's squad at Charleston is going to upset him. You could see a 13-12 second-round game because it wouldn't shock me if Grand Canyon beat St. Mary's either. And I don't think the winner of Mississippi State, Michigan State's taking down UNC. So I look at the road for UNC. It is favorable. And if you get UNC, Arizona in the Elite 8, winner goes to the Final Four with the Caleb Love factor, I think it's just sensational. So can UNC and Arizona get to the Elite 8 and give us that with the spot in the Final Four on the line? 4, the Big East only getting 3 teams in, I think is a disgrace. When you have the number 1 overall seed UConn, you then have a 2 seed in Marquette and a 3 seed in Creighton. I know all these bids were snatched up and they were stolen. It was highway robbery, all that stuff. But how not one of Seton Hall, St. John's, or Providence get in doesn't make sense. And St. John's, Pitino called them out, and they went on that win streak. And I know they didn't have a great season, but how the heck can they be 25th in Ken Palm and then 32 in the net and they don't get in? Like, I don't understand these numbers. Never have, never will in the rankings. In at number 3, I absolutely love the South region. When I look at the South region, Houston, phenomenal. If Kolek comes back with Marquette, and it seems like that's going to be the case, according to at least what Shaka Smart said to John Rothstein last night, like, all right, he's going to be dressed, going to be ready to go. John, you don't have to kind of text me all throughout the week asking for updates. Kentucky, especially with the way that they played towards the end of their regular season, really damn good. I'm not a believer in Duke, but I just think there's a lot of intrigue. And how about Nebraska A&M to start off the tournament? Trev Alberts, the AD at Nebraska, left a week ago to go to A&M, and he's a Cornhusker, Trev Alberts. I just think there's some fun storylines in the South. And then the number 2 takeaway is there are no excuses for Purdue and Tennessee. Dalton Knecht gives Tennessee a shot to maybe have the Rick Barnes shortcomings get overcome. Purdue, can you have the Virginia redemption after they lost to a 16, right, as we got to see the following year? But you look at that Midwest, Purdue and Tennessee are the 1 and 2. Then after that, it's like, all right, I like Creighton, and I think McDermott can get there. They're actually my pick. But I'm not saying that they're world beaters. Gonzaga hasn't had a great year. You know, Kansas, I'm not saying you'll fall in love with them, but self will always intimidate you. If Purdue nor Tennessee get there, I just think it's absolutely disgraceful for Painter and then Barnes. And then at number 1, here's my biggest takeaway for the bracket. Whenever it's UConn or the field, I don't feel great taking the team over the other 67. But that's how damn good UConn is. And I thought what Bobby Regan said was something that was very intriguing about Houston. Like, Houston would have a good chance to beat UConn. But I'm not picking against UConn. The only way I'd pick against UConn is because everyone is picking them. But that team, how they didn't even play their best brand of basketball last year, and they were still able to win the championship, and then you followed up with them returning so many guys this year, I absolutely love Hurley. UConn, to me, is a blue blood, and I think that this is the continuation of the dominance we're going to see in UConn getting their next big-time head coach with what Danny Hurley's been able to do. All righty, fun show today. Great job out of Chris Hess. Great job out of Michael Samter. Big thanks to Dalton Knecht for joining us. In addition to Bobby Regan, big thanks to each and every one of you as well. We'll talk manana, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.